I love that sound. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Marcia Smith, your worship associate today. I welcome all of you to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Venice. We are a friendly group gathered to support each other in the search for love and meaning in this beautiful and challenging world. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we welcome you. Are there any new visitors this morning? I know we have some special visitors. If you raise your hand, we'd love to hear your name and where you're from. We have some special family members, and Dave is running to grab the microphone. If you are a visitor today and didn't get a chance to, please stop by the welcome table and fill out a visitor card, and then we can keep you updated on all of our activities.
I'm Karen Williams. I'm Dave and Martha Williams' daughter.
And Amy, and I'm Dave and Martha's other daughter.
Under sad circumstances, but we're so delighted to have you here. We do have a few announcements. Oh, I'm sorry, missed one.
Okay. I'm a guest today. I guess at some point I might be helping out with organ or piano, either way. I've been an organist for churches for a number of years, and I'm a concert pianist. And I'm planning to do a program next March. Next March is Women's History Month. And I'm going to be doing a program of women composers that I hope to be able to do here at this church in March of next year.
Welcome.
So that's quite a ways. And my name is Priscilla Fullerton, and I live at Village on the Isle. and I'm just, taking it easy right now between churches. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome. We look forward to hearing details about that. Okay, we have a few announcements. Reverend Amy is unfortunately having to warn us once again to beware of email scams, and there's probably text scams going around too. She will never email you or text you asking for money. If you ever have any questions, call her. Unfortunately, that happens a lot. Also, she is on vacation, and till the end of July, if you have an emergency, you may call her. Don't email her, call her. All right? The transitions group, led by Cindy, is going to include the grief and death group, led by Cindy, is incorporating the transitions group for the rest of the summer. So refer to the calendar for those dates. And one more, you may see this flyer on the sign-up table. I haven't made a sign-up sheet yet, but UCOV will have a table at the Senior Health and Wellness Expo being put on by Venice Pride. It's on June 22nd. I'll need just a few volunteers to represent UCOV. It's just from 10 to 2, so an easy gig. So look for that. We are now entering a sacred space. Please silence your electronics, and the service begins with the prelude. We light the chalice this morning with words by Reverend David Breeden. We unite in our differences in background and belief. We unite with gratitude and hope. Hope for a world of differences, hoping for a world that honors difference. We unite in community with gratitude for difference. I just wanted to thank whoever donated the flowers today. It's a piece of serendipity. And today we have Sister Act. Unfortunately, we won't be singing for you, but maybe next week. I'd like to introduce my sister, the Reverend Alison L. Moore. We grew up together, shared a room, and of course had entirely different interests and life journeys. Alison can wear many labels: sister, mother and wife, singer, leader, writer and author, minister, empath, professional organizer. But to me, the essential Alison is my friend who shares with me the joys and struggles of being human.
Good morning. And isn't that what it's all about? Sharing the joys and struggles of being human. I think it's what brings congregations together and what helps us grow as individuals. I am trained in Swedenborgian theology, but Swedenborg says that God, the divine, is present everywhere in all things, and makes available to everyone everywhere all the things they need to grow spiritually. So it is the opposite of exclusive, and it's one of the things I love about it. And hopefully I'll bring that inclusivity in my talk, even as I discuss a particularly Swedenborgian lens this morning. I look forward to this time with you. And now, if you would please rise in body or spirit, we will sing together the gathering hymn number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
Through
Part of what keeps us going as a congregation is our mutual financial support. Since giving should always happen with a smile, I offer the story, and I had to look and look. I don't know where Reverend Amy finds her supply of stories. Pastor Quick was on his way back to the parish from an extended out-of-state trip. Eager to be home before dark, he was traveling well over the speed limit and ended up being pulled over by a state trooper. The officer was not impressed by his explanation or his collar and asked, "Do you want me to give you a little sermon about your driving, Pastor?" "Oh, skip the sermon," said the flustered pastor, "and just take up the collection. The offering will now be gratefully received." Thank you so much for these gifts given and for everything you contribute to the life of the church. The church is not a building, but the people. As a community of human hands and human hearts, we share our laughter and our tears. We're entering a time of sharing our joys and concerns. If you have something to share, raise your hand and someone will bring you a microphone, and we will light a candle to kindle the flame inside you. And also, you're welcome at any time to light a candle yourself, and remember to share joys and concerns with permission.
Thank you. My name is Karen Williams, and this is my sister Amy, and we're Martha and Dave Williams' daughters. And as you know, Martha passed away on Monday morning, and Dad wasn't able to come today, so we came for him to let you know how he's doing. And I just want to say that this community was so important to my mother. And I want to thank you for being here for her all these years. 2 summers ago when she had surgery, Dad and I were with her at the hospital, and she was not behaving very well. And I know you all say she's so sweet. Well, she was not sweet then. And she kept wanting to leave, and she was confused. And she said, "It's time to go to church. I need to go to church." And so thank you for being that place that she wanted to go to when she was confused and feeling overwhelmed. And I also want to say that Dad is okay, but he will not ask for help. He won't ask any of you for help, and he's going to need it. And so if you can reach out to him for just a simple visit, don't call the landline because he can't hear a syllable on the landline. Please call his cell phone. And we're right now getting that taken out of the Aston Gardens directory and out of your directory, we hope. So if, just call him or text him. That works the best. So thank you if you can be there for him, because this is very difficult. They were high school sweethearts. And some of you probably don't know, but he never even went on a date with another woman. So, thanks again.
Thank you for sharing all of that with us. May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May the love of this community hold all who need love and concern. May we never look away when we are needed. May those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed. May those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. Our first reading today is a responsive reading. Our journey is to transform, adapted from Elizabeth Nguyen. As Unitarian Universalists, our journey is to transform the big and the small, to transform ourselves, and to transform the world. Universalism means no one is outside of the circle of love, and no one is disposable. No one is outside of the circle of love, and no one is disposable. We stubbornly seek out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what. Interdependence means none of us is truly free until we are all free, and our thriving is bound up in the earth's thriving. None of us is truly free until we are all free. We struggle for liberation from the violence of white supremacy, sexism, ableism, classism, and heterosexism. Our covenants mean we make promises to our communities to honor love and justice above all else. We make promises to honor love and justice above all else. For a meditation moment today, please remain seated and sing Spirit of Life, followed by a moment of silence. Our second reading is selections from 2 Samuel and 1 Kings. In the Swedenborgian tradition, the Bible is viewed as an allegory of our spiritual journey. Rather than a set of rules and cautionary tales, it is a mirror of our growth with all of our stumbles, foibles, and eventual success. The story of the Israelites often shows the tension between what we humans decide is the right way to follow God and do church, which often becomes rigid and inflexible, and what the divine plan actually is, which allows for a more open and living tradition. So in this story, listen for who actually wanted the temple built, and listen for movement. After the king was settled in his palace and the Lord had given him rest from all his enemies around him, he said to Nathan the prophet, "Here I am, living in a house of cedar, while the ark of God remains in a tent." But that night the word of the Lord came to Nathan, saying, "Go and tell my servant David, this is what the Lord says. Are you the one to build me a house to dwell in? I have not dwelled in a house from the day I brought the Israelites up out of Egypt to this day. I have been moving from place to place with a tent as my dwelling. Wherever I have moved with all the Israelites, did I ever say to any of their rulers whom I commanded to shepherd my people, Israel, did I ever say, 'Why have you not built me a house of cedar?' Now then, tell my servant David, this is what the Lord Almighty says. I took you from the pasture, from tending the flock, and appointed you to rule over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone, and I have cut off all your enemies from before you. The Lord declares to you that when the Lord himself will establish a house, the Lord declares to you that the Lord himself will establish a house for you. When your days are over and you rest with your ancestors, I will raise up your offspring to succeed you, your own flesh and blood, and I will establish his kingdom. He is the one who will build a house for my name." And from 1 Kings, when Hiram, king of Tyre, heard that Solomon had been anointed king to succeed his father David, he sent his envoys to Solomon because he'd always been on friendly terms with David. Solomon sent this message back to Hiram. "You know that because of the wars waged against my father David from all sides, he could not build a temple for the name of the Lord his God until the Lord put his enemies under his feet. But now the Lord my God has given me rest on every side, and there is no adversary or disaster. I intend, therefore, to build a temple for the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord told my father David when he said, 'Your son, whom I will put on the throne in your place, will build the temple for my name.'" Please rise in body or spirit and sing number 140, "Hail the Glorious Golden City."
Everlasting light shines over
that hymn would be more meaningful immediately after this sermon. But if you really feel like it, you can go back and reread the lyrics and see if it sits differently with you. My opening quote is from Marcel Proust. "We don't receive wisdom. We must discover it for ourselves after a journey that no one can take for us or spare us." In my training to be a Swedenborgian minister, there was one revered professor that has just recently passed away in his 90s, but he had a very unique way of pulling together many Swedenborgian teachings into one coherent vision that was transformative for me. He viewed the Bible, at least the Swedenborgian canon, as a mirror of our spiritual growth journey from our birth, which is creation, through our final spiritual transcendence, which is the holy city. That means from creation through revelation, it describes what we do on the path and what we go through. It starts in a garden with the river of life and the tree of life and innocence, and it ends in a holy city with a river of life and a tree of life. Gardens represent innocence, like childhood, and a city represents a more cosmopolitan, deeply interrelational, and sophisticated context, a fully matured location, so to speak. But from within the Garden of Eden, once there is a loss of our childlike innocence as we mature, we are expelled out of that place of innocence, and the door is locked behind us. It's not actually a bad thing. It's often interpreted, the story of the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden, as a bad thing, but it's actually the only way we mature into a full and healthy spiritual life. The only way to get back to the tree of life and the river of life is to go forward. So this sermon is drawing nuggets from a book called A Book About Us by the Reverend Dr. George Dole. It's a tiny little book that you can get as a free PDF if you're interested. But essentially, Genesis, the book of Genesis, covers our childhood from first innocence right through until we are ready to enter teenage years. Exodus is the teenage years, in metaphor, where we are struggling for our own identity and our own independence and a feeling of being enslaved to the rule of our parents, but also to the expectations of our peers, the rules around us, who we need to feel we have to be and how we have to dress to fit in and belong. Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy and all the laws. They are all the laws and rules and boundaries we discover as we enter adulthood. But with freedom, the freedom that we sought as teenagers, comes great responsibility. Hence, all the laws and rules. Leviticus in particular is a metaphor for how we map our moral values, which I find fascinating. The 10 Commandments are seen as prohibitions and serve as prohibitions against bad behaviors as we mature. But ultimately, towards the end of the journey, they will be seen as promises. One day, if you stay on this journey, you will no longer have impulses to cheat or to lie or to steal. You will no longer gossip. You will no longer have murderous thoughts. not even towards certain political leaders. The laws ritualize scapegoating, not because we should do it, but because we do it. On our path as adults, we will often scapegoat others in order to feel safe ourselves. We put our problems on them, either metaphorically or in language. The problem is all about them. And we then feel safe from the problem when we bring within ourselves all the problems, all the tendencies are within us. And within us is the only place where we actually have control. So it's really good for us to look inside ourselves at all times when we see something out there that we don't like. Look for any way it might live inside us and work on that. And that is a way you combat the thing out there, actually. The Bible is not prescriptive, but descriptive. Humans are prone to interpret the Bible prescriptively. We are looking for laws and rules to keep us safe from the scary thing that is called hell, that somebody decided is a thing that we can't prove, but happens sometime in the future, and it's going to be bad, so we'd all better behave ourselves. But it actually, the Bible contains great promise and acknowledges all of our failings. It sees and describes all the things we do, whether they're nice or not. It's a way of saying, I see you, and I'm still with you, and I still have the holy city in mind for you. Viewing the biblical narrative as a mirror of what we do along our path of spiritual growth helps me make much more sense, particularly of the narrative surrounding the building of the temple. In my childhood, the temple was seen as the pinnacle, the arrival, the great glorious sign that the children of Israel were doing and being all the things they were supposed to do. And then no one ever talked about how everything falls apart right after that. It's just problem after problem after problem until the temple is torn down and all the people are dragged away to a foreign land. But Professor Dole pointed out the possibility that the very building of the temple was a step away from the better path. I had never thought of that before. If you listened closely during the readings, God never ordered the building of the temple. God expresses tremendous contentment and happiness with the tabernacle, which was a tent. It was flexible. It could be taken down and put up again. It could travel. It could move to the worshipers where they are, from the remotest shepherding village to the core of the city centers. He stops David from building the house of cedar, and he tells him that Solomon will build it, but he doesn't say he wants Solomon to build it. He just says Solomon's going to do that. So really think about the difference between a temple and a tabernacle and the metaphorical way they represent how we do church, how we worship together and be with the other in our journey together. A tabernacle is accessible, flexible, and invites intimacy. It comes to the worshiper wherever they are. A temple is set in stone. It insists worshipers come to it, no matter where it is and no matter where they're coming from. It made it much harder for the poor in the remote communities to come offer their sacrifices. Even if they brought their own goat or their own cow, it often would die on the journey. And this is why they had money changers in the temple. because your offering died. You had to buy a new one so that you could offer it. And the metaphor of that in terms of how we do worship with each other and for each other is outstandingly poignant, I think. It is a step backwards to build a temple. When we build a temple, we have become so comfortable in our own sense of entitlement that the way we lay down the rules of who is and who is out of our congregation, we get comfortable and we forget the purpose of worship, which is hospitality and ministry and service and spiritual growth. The onus is on the adherents to meet us where we are as a congregation, and we stop meeting others where they are. We lose our curiosity about the other and become more of an insider club. We tend, across the board, to become fundraising machines for our buildings rather than about serving the neighbor. So I say that the building of the temple is the beginning of the fall from genuine worship. The building of the temple creates all the problems that follow and is in the story because it is what we do. Yet we cannot get to the holy city with a temple. The whole thing must be torn down for us to be ready to receive a living, breathing, divine presence among us, in our hearts, in our souls. Our comfort zone, our great monument to our own special status, must be dismantled before our hearts can be ready for an entirely new perspective on our place in the order of things. We had reached for an outcome that we thought would bring us happiness, the temple, only to have it fall into disillusionment and emptiness. The temple must come down for us to think less materially and more relationally, which is our midlife crisis. Let's think about that for a while. My next quote is from Sam Keen, an American author, professor, and philosopher. The first part of the spiritual journey should properly be called psychological rather than spiritual, because it involves peeling away the myths and illusions that have misinformed us. After the fall of the temple, or at least the failure of king after king after king, we get a spotty narrative interspersed with poetry and prophecies, both dire and hopeful. Professor Dole says this represents the chaos of mind and outlook that can happen in our midlife crisis. The things we have attached our happiness to have not actually brought us happiness, and we are searching for a while for what our next vision is. Without the temple, who are we? Without our land, who are we? There is a tension in every step of the journey, a tension between inner and outer values, relational versus a nice house. There's a tension between following formulas or always being open to breaking new ground and creative vision. It is the tension between law and grace, between letter and spirit. Our human nature wants to settle, to rest in comfort, to ossify or set our future in stone. Of course we want to rest. It's exhausting. The journey calls us constantly to join in relationship and mutuality with others, an activity that requires flexibility, curiosity, and a willingness to meet others where they are. We often hold on to this desire for what we envisioned our life should be, well past the falling apart of it. We still want to win according to our original plan, even though a lot of the pieces and possibilities have fallen away. We are aware of the call to be less attached to our personal advancement, which is the supremacy of the kingdom of Israel, and more focused on the spiritual and physical well-being of all, which is the kingdom of heaven, the tension described in the Gospels. The midlife crisis has carved out a place in us for greater humility and greater awareness of others into our otherwise comfortable and set lives. And the question is, do we grow beyond or do we turn back? And the interesting thing is, the same way that whole swaths of the population in Jesus' day, including his own disciples, expected Jesus to become a physical king that elevated Israel back to a world power. It's the original vision. And so do we, in part, hold on to our original dreams and ideas for our lives and seek somehow to make them come to pass, to seek an earthly success, when that is not what the kingdom of heaven is about. Professor Dole suggests that it is an unequivocal confrontation with our own mortality, represented by the crucifixion of Jesus, that finally jolts us, if we are open, into the realization of what truly matters here and now, which is healthy relationships, soul treasuring soul. These things make up the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven has always been about seeking and achieving healthy interpersonal relationships on the planet. It has been about loving our neighbor as ourselves. It has never been about dominance or power, and yet we see this sought around us all the time. It has never been about fixing those wrong, bad people out there. It has always been about seeking the kingdom of heaven within, which is the only place any of us have any control. And this produces a state of deep perspective, wisdom, love, and understanding, such that we can weather the storms of the chaotic and often infantile world around us. Each one of us is on this journey, and we each reflect the state or stage of personal growth in which we are. Some of us are working through Leviticus, and that person could be standing next to someone who's in Ezekiel, who is next to someone in the later chapters of Revelation. We're not on the same page often, but that doesn't mean we're not on the same journey. And the path isn't linear. It is more like a spiraling road up a mountain, going round and round, circling higher and higher, and it can appear we're revisiting the same problems and issues. The forest, say, goes up the mountain, and here we are in the forest, and we struggle, and we get out of it, and we come around, and oh no, we're in the forest again. And we don't necessarily know we have progressed, because it can feel like the very same place. The marvelous thing about the book of Revelation is that, well, it starts with the sky falling and plagues and all sorts of weird and dire happenings, which can be what aging feels like. It ends in the holy city where at last is the river of life and the tree of life again. The tree of life with leaves for the healing of all the nations. Unlike the Garden of Eden, the holy city has doors open wide in all directions. This implies a welcome to all. No one can enter who has not made the full journey, but the journey itself burns away all of the elements that would keep us from entering. There is a seven-headed dragon and a whore riding a beast for a while in the book of Revelation. But they just kind of go away as you get towards the end. They just cease to trouble us. That's because we have let whatever those elements that are part of our personalities go. This is a universalist perspective on heaven. Anyone can enter once they have completed the journey. Everyone can enter, and the journey itself prepares us for entry. What is the holy city? Some would say it is the state of surpassing well-being that one enters after death, something we called heaven, a state on a spiritual plane in a spiritual dimension. Others would say it is a supremely wise and compassionate and serene state of mind that some of us achieve on earth, despite everything we see around us. In this denomination, where you are invited to explore, build, and renovate your theology as you live and grow, you can decide what it is for you. You can decide if this narrative and perspective serves you at all. For me, it is a promise that offers me great hope in a time of tremendously worrying planetary change and political corruption. It promises a state of mind in which my perspective remains both engaged and yet at peace. It promises a purpose and vision for this earthly existence that transcends the suffering and injustice that we see everywhere, so often on this earth. And the divine will wipe away every tear from our eyes. There shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying. There shall be no more pain, for those former things will have passed away. May it be so. Amen.
As we extinguish the chalice, may we take the circle of community ever wider. Please rise in body or spirit to sing number 1018, Come and Go With Me.
Just pretend I was ready. We are on a journey. We didn't plan it. We didn't have time for the bread to rise. We may find ourselves in the wilderness, hungry, thirsty, doubting that we should ever have come. But look around. We are not alone. It is our journey together, a journey to our better selves, a journey to a better world, a journey to a more promised land. Amen.